Rob Tebbutt here for Boxing News. Delighted to be joined by the gentleman, Chris Billam-Smith. It is Okolie Chris Billam-Smith fight week, which is not something that I ever expected to say, Chris. But we are here in Bournemouth ahead of your world title challenge against your former stablemate and sparring partner and friend, Lawrence Okolie. How you doing?
Yeah, very well, very well. Mad that it's here. The fight itself, me against Lawrence, like you said, but also the occasion, the stadium, the world title, everything's just lined up perfectly. So I'm in a good place.
I mean, I'm not surprised. You are fighting not only in Bournemouth. Of course, you had those two last fights in Bournemouth against Jojai and Isaac Chamberlain. But now you're fighting at the Vitality Stadium, which is something that, I mean, I've been speaking to you since you were maybe 2-0, 3-0, something like that. And I think pretty early on in those conversations, you always spoke about this day, one day coming, and this day being the dream for you. Does it feel strange, surreal, excited? How are you feeling right now?
Yeah, all those things really. But yeah, I'm glad it's here, obviously. But yeah, I mean, I saw at the stadium last night, doing the event with Maverick Stars Trust, and saw the pitch getting laid out, and like emotions got to me. I was like, this is actually happening. This is unbelievable. So yeah, I was like, this is mad journey. Like from being sat in that stand, I was looking at towards where my old seat was when I was a season ticket holder 20 years ago. So yeah, it's definitely makes the hairs stand up, and yeah, it's amazing that it's now here.
We've spoken in the past, particularly before the Chamberlain fight, where you hadn't taken big time boxing, as it were, down to Bournemouth in a while, and how you would handle the occasion. And you kind of referenced it today in the press conference about, pressure is a privilege, one of the many CBS mantras over the years.
That's not my quote, though. That's Billie Jean King quote, that one.
Okay, well,
tennis player. So don't start repping me with that. I'll get done for trademark.
Yeah, to be fair, send all of your legal letters to Chris Billam-Smith instead of Boxing News. But this is different, isn't it? And you mentioned there about being at the stadium and looking up at that and, being emotional about it. You've done well at shutting it off on those two other fights. How do you ensure that you don't let the occasion overcome you on Saturday night?
I just feel like everything's built up to this, so like you gotta embrace the build up, the moment, but on the night it's just there's a job to do, and the job's not finished by me getting in the ring and people turning up in their thousands. The job's finished when I'm getting my hand raised, and everything else is in. The reason I love boxing is because when I used to play football, I could have the best game of my life and I could lose 10-0. And then with boxing, it's all down to me. How much work I put in, how much, with all my supplements around me here, all those 1% and all the things I do with they all add up, but that's down to me. So if I'm sleeping better, I'm performing better, like I'm in control. I was fortunate enough to essentially choose my team as well, where Shane accepted my invitation. So, I say invitation, I asked Shane, he accepted my question to obviously ask him, but so he trained me. And then, yeah, so my point is that everything's now in my control. Everything else is done. And now it's just my control, me getting in the ring. So that's the easy part. And that's the position you want to be in life. For me, is everything being sorted out, and having everything in my control. And that's what happens Saturday night. Is once you get in the ring, I'm in control of the situation, so the outcome's in my hands, and that's the pressure I love, and that's the control I want to have.
Strange to be sat across from Lawrence today at the top table.
I've got used to it now, obviously, in terms of we had one press conference before, but also that we've been spoke about a lot, and the back and forths and line and the questions and stuff like that. So no, it's been good fun in the build up. Slightly strange, but sort of got your head around it. I mean, it was stranger at the first presser, I think, but since then obviously we've had a lot of time to get used to it.
Yeah, we've got a new fan up there as well. A certain Sugar Hill Stewart. He had some. We spoke to him afterwards. He had some very complimentary things to say about you, which was nice to hear.
Yeah, no, he's obviously a great trainer. So it's nice for me to hear that. Someone who's come down to Bournemouth, experienced it, and experienced the atmosphere. And it was some kind words he said about the fans, and not many boxers get that. So it just reiterates my point of how grateful I am to my fans, and how I shouldn't take that for granted. And I definitely don't.
One of the things that's come into into focus, I think, in recent days at least, you've seen a lot of people discussing, Lawrence's size, his strength, his awkwardness, and how fighters, even Garbu, Andy Clark, big up Andy Clark every time, he kind of mentioned about people telling Ngabu before the fight, he's strong, he's this, and Ngabu going, yeah, but I'm strong and I'm this. You're very, very, listen, so you're very, very aware. Having shared 300 rounds with him and having experienced that, admittedly in sparring and not a fight, does that play to your advantage? Is that how you kind of interpret that?
Yeah, I think something I've got on every one of Lawrence's opponents is they've never experienced the awkwardness, and to have to then deal with all that and overcome that on fight night is very hard, especially from people who are inexperienced in Lawrence's resume as such, like Ngabu, not that experienced in terms of, like, he hasn't boxed loads of styles and and he's gone about his business. But I guess Glavatsky was the most experienced, but he's always fought a similar way. He's not a thinking fighter. Everyone else, to think on the spot against Lawrence, you can't afford to go into the fight with having to think on the spot, because it's too late and you're 6-7 rounds down, maybe having to think about how do I get around this, and then you're tired because you think the way to do it is just wrestle him and try and fight out and do whatever. So it's about managing your energy, and and I think that's one thing I've got on all of Lawrence's opponents, is that experience in the ring with him. But also he'll realise on Saturday, I think, that how strong I am now. Like, since he's left the gym, my physique says it, on its own, but physically in there, my body's working how it should now. There was a few issues that we've ironed out over the last sort of 8, 9 months with my strength conditioning coach, and we've noticed it massively on the pads, in sparring. We notice it. So that's going to be a big factor as well, about my strength on the inside. And also, I've experienced Lawrence's strength when he's heavy most of the time. He's always been over 100 kilo when I've sparred him. I don't think I ever sparred him the last few weeks of camp. So, most of the time he was over 100 kilo, there or thereabouts. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see what he is like on fight night, in terms of, he might feel weaker than what I'm used to. He might not. He might feel, but I'm obviously prepared for the Lawrence I'm used to, which is the heavy, strong one, and awkward. And so there'd be a bit that might play a factor on fight night.
Lawrence is kind of known to be, very physically strong, very awkward, punches hard with the right hand. You're known as somebody who gets into wars, Chris. You get into fights. I mean, you're always pretty good value and entertaining to watch. Given the fact that you're here, you're boxing for a world title, it's at the Vitality Stadium. I think the general feeling is the way that you win this fight, if you're going to win this fight or be successful in this fight, is getting close and letting the shots go. How important is it that you don't start at, kamikaze pace and walk onto something early in the fight? Is that very much kind of box A to tick, so to speak, in the fight?
Yeah, for sure. I think if you're fighting Lawrence, the game plan throughout the whole fight, for the whole 12 rounds, has got to be don't get hit clean. So the concentration levels have got to be high. A lot of people with Lawrence walk him down and put the pressure on, and it's there's a lot of facets to it, I think, of the way you've got to approach it, but it's not as simple as everyone thinks, because everyone just says, "Oh, why don't they just let their hands go? Why don't they just do this?" And however many have tried and however many have failed, and that's the thing I've got on everyone, because when you're in there, you don't know. But I've obviously got the experience of being in there and the experience of his former coach in Shane, knowing how to do certain things, and we've got a good relationship where we can communicate and have done throughout camp about what does work and what doesn't work, and what he does like and what he doesn't like. So that's just another huge benefit. But yeah, I think the game plan against Lawrence is, for anyone, is don't get hit, because that's his power, and then he starts sapping you with his, whether that's his holding, but the punches will sap you as well. So you got to be smart in there.
It's been a unique camp, I'd imagine. Obviously, preparing for somebody that you are so familiar with. I haven't spoke to Shane. I haven't sat down and interviewed him yet this week. I could imagine, knowing Shane and kind of the way he approaches his work, that this would be something that he would relish, the opportunity to do this, and the opportunity to, all due respect to Lawrence, get one up on somebody who's now no longer in the gym.
Yeah, I think so. I think Shane loves the challenge, and at the end of the day, I am the challenger. Going into a fight against the champion. Lawrence won the belt when it was vacant against a former world champion. And yeah, I think when you're the challenger, it's more exciting for both boxer and the coach, because you're actually going to take the title off of someone. And I think that's sort of the mindset me and Shane have. We love challenges, adversity, and overcoming that, and that's what we've both done throughout our careers. Everyone's had their doubts about Shane as a coach when he was such a young coach, and he's proven himself. Me as a boxer, so yeah, we're similar in that mindset.
What did you make of Lawrence's last performance against David Light?
It wasn't a great spectacle, but also was a dominating win. So as much as it wasn't a good spectacle, how can you fault a man that didn't look like losing in a world title defence against his mandatory challenger? And there was things in there which he would have brushed up on. His mindset alone, going in against a mandatory challenger who no one's given a hope in hell, and then going in there with someone like me who he knows is going to be bang up for the fight and going to be pushing him every second of every round. His mindset alone will improve his performance, even if it was exactly the same camp as last time and I was in there instead of David Light. Just because it was me, it would have improved his performance. So yeah, I think you can't take too much from that fight. I expect him to be a lot better on Saturday.
Expecting a full house at Vitality Stadium. Any notable names in attendance from your beloved Bournemouth?
I think obviously all the Bournemouth players are gonna be up in Liverpool because they got Everton the next day. So I saw them the other night. I think a couple of the players are coming, Marcus Tavernier and Junior Stanislas, because they're injured at the moment, unfortunately. But fortunately, they're at the fight with the chief exec Neil Blake. Saw them the other night, so they said they were coming. They were very excited. Saw a couple of the other players because they're having a meal here at the hotel, and they said that they were gutted. And I was like, well, you've got a week to pull a hamstring, a few days to pull a hamstring, and get yourself to the fight, and then meet the lads up there next day. But no, they've got a job to do, got another game, to improve the season, and work towards next season. So there's a couple of the lads, but most of them will be watching in the hotel. Hopefully give them a big lift for the next day.
Just going back to the sparring, one of the things that I didn't ask is, of course, when Lawrence joined the gym, you were at different stages of your career. Of course, he's now world champion. You're challenging for his title, so you're very much on a similar path now. How much did you learn from those spars, and how much? Because one of the things that I've always spoke to Shane about in the past is having fighters at different stages of their careers. And okay, this wasn't a George Groves and a Lee McGregor, for example, where you're completely at different ends of the career. But how much did you learn from having those rounds with Lawrence and having him around the gym?
Yeah, I don't think Lee and George would aspire either weight wise.
No.
That would have been a way too big a gap. No, but like huge amounts. But I think it worked both ways. I do think me sparring Lawrence helped him massively. I mean, the first spar we ever had was I know it was an awakening for him. He sort of put me in a bracket of sort of very domestic level before the spar, and then after it, and he was like, okay, this lad's real. And I've always known what I'm capable of. So yeah, I've learned a lot from Lawrence, having those competitive rounds throughout for years is very useful. And I think we owe each other a lot in that sense. That our improvement has come from each other, a lot of it. I think you have bad days, you have good days in the gym, you have good spars, you have bad spars. One of us might be on it one day, the other might not, and works both ways. So yeah, but I think as a whole, I think we've definitely improved both each other as fighters and helped us both get to the world level.
Final quick couple from me. I do appreciate your time so close to the fight. One of them being, I mean, I know that you've said throughout this week and you've said over the course of the last few months about it's not just enough to fight at the Vitality Stadium. We need to win. You're not here to just to be in there and have a go and lose. But you must also understand what you've done for boxing in the region. There'll be kids from Bournemouth. There'll be kids, I mean, going back to the Chamberlain fight and Jojai before Christmas, what you've managed to do in a short space of time and now bringing a world title fight, full packed out stadium, must give you an immense sense of pride, albeit still a job to do on Saturday, but you still must understand that.
Yeah. I mean, it does give me a sense of pride, but the difference in level between, winning on Saturday to where obviously it is now is massive. I think, it's nice. You get a lot of acclaim, and it's very easy when you're winning to get all the acclaim, and everyone wants. So you've got to keep winning. This is a sport where you've got to keep winning, and we've seen it time and time again over the years. People forget you very quickly if you don't win. So my focus is always on just winning, and obviously for me it's so much to it. This win, it's not just okay. Yeah, I've become world champion. I've done it in my dream venue. In front of a town of kids that are looking up to you, and the whole town's behind you. I'm not just doing it on, a random card abroad or even somewhere up the country on an undercard, headlining on the biggest platform in the UK and Sky Sports. So, it is so much to it. And then for me, it's, it's a legacy for me in the town to win on Saturday. So huge amount of pressure, and that's what I love.
Okay, last quick one from me is on Isaac Chamberlain. It was nice to see him get warmly received by the Bournemouth faithful yesterday and today. Nice to see him back on track and unfortunately not boxing Mikel Lawal. But good to see him though. And he obviously had very nice things to say about yourself. Not sure about him and Lawrence Okolie nowadays. But yeah, just a kind of a final word on Isaac Chamberlain being back in Bournemouth.
Yeah, no, I'm gutted that he hasn't got that fight because one, great fight. I fancied Isaac to win that fight, to be honest. I just think he's a bit more seasoned. But I would have liked to watched it back and seen the reception he got, because he deserved. The crowd down here aren't, they're very respectful people. I know he gained a lot of fans down here when he last boxed, when he boxed me down here, and we obviously created such a great fight. And that's, it takes two to tango. So the fans down here have got a lot of time for Isaac, and he's got obviously would have hopefully have been winning the British title, and I think the atmosphere would have been good for his fight. A nice little teaser to go into my fight, and so I'm glad he hasn't got that, but it's good that he's still on the card, and it's a career which I'm interested in. I think I like Isaac. We chatted at the press conferences and when we've seen each other at shows, and we've got a lot of respect for each other. I think you can't not have that respect when you share the rounds that we did, which is one of the most beautiful things about the sport. I think I'm interested to see where his career goes, and I want to see it, develop. I said to Mick Hennessy after our fight, I said, before I'd even seen Isaac, he was in the medical room, I said, Mick, keep him busy, because he's a good fighter. That's what it's about. The sport is about fighters like Isaac taking opportunities like he did against me, and vice versa. And the cruiserweight division's alive. You want everyone fighting everyone, like me and Lawrence are doing now. Me and Isaac are done, and stuff. So I really want to see his career take off, and who knows? Maybe we'll end up fighting for a world title, having a rematch.
Yeah, he's already staked his claim for the winner of Saturday's main event.
Has
He
he?
wants a rematch with either one of you. I don't think he's particularly fussy. Right, we're going to do something before we wrap it up. I don't do this very often with you. I'm not sure if I've ever done this with you. I do it quite often, but we've got this lovely camera here, man, by the main man, Ben Faruqi. And I want you to look into that camera right there. And I want you to talk to all of the people who are going to be not only in attendance at the Vitality Stadium, but also watching live on Sky Sports. And I want you to tell them how Saturday night ends. Lawrence Okolie versus Chris Billam-Smith for the WBO Cruiserweight title.
Saturday, May 27th, Vitality Stadium. Chris Billam-Smith wins the WBO World Cruiserweight title by stoppage. Whether that's a knockout or a TKO, we will see. But Lawrence will not hear the final bell.
There we go. You heard it here first. Chris Billam-Smith, thanks very much for speaking to Boxing News. Wish you all the best ahead of your bout of Lawrence Okolie on Saturday night.
Thank you, mate. Cheers for your time.